Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Tuesday. It is, we like to call it Taco Tuesday around here. Hit me some of that Taco Tuesday.
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right? It's Taco Tuesday!
I think my favorite part is when Speedy Gonzalez chimes in. That's the best part. And that would be Big Rig pushing the buttons on the board. Hey, man, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good.
Got my coffee, so I'm good.
Taco Tuesday. Got your coffee. All right, we got a great show lined up for you. Hadn't been on the show here in a little while, but we're going to have Scott Buttram, publisher of the Trustful Tribune. He always has amazing commentary. So Scott Buttram is going to be on the air with us at 3 o'clock today. So stand by for that. He's got some comments on what is actually Dipper number one. So speaking of dippers, hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. Coming right out the gate, we're going to talk about some law and order. I mean, it's amazing to me what we tend to see in the 2-tiered system of justice. Now, I will caveat that by saying that Hunter Biden was convicted today. While I don't want to say that's encouraging, but you know what I mean. A Democrat finally got a conviction. But anyway, we're going to talk about some things that are happening on the streets. And when I say street justice, I'm talking about actual justice for crimes committed on the streets. Things that happen, you look at and go, look, where's the law and order? Who's going to actually enforce the laws? Who's going to, by the way, police the streets? And it's even going to have some local commentary attached to it. Scott Buttram chiming in on some of that. Number 1, Triple Dipper, law and order. All right, number 2, I'm calling it drag queens and blackface. Oh, I got your attention, didn't I? Number 2 on the Triple Dipper, drag queens and blackface. Here's my question for you. Think about it. If blackface is considered bad, and I get it, if blackface is considered bad, then why are drag queens considered okay? One mocks black people, allegedly. The other absolutely mocks women. One's not okay, the other one is. Yep, drag queens and blackface, we're going to talk about that. And number 2 on Triple Dipper, I got all kinds of examples and we will lay them out. And then number 3, I'm calling it culture clashes. It's amazing when you watch the disparity between things that, like, I don't know, Ron DeSantis and even Kay Ivey have done and Governor Gavin Newsom won't do. And then I've got comparative opportunities for liberals and conservatives on the public policy scene. What's one doing and yet the other's doing exactly the opposite? It's culture clashes is what it is. It's the fight for policy. And we'll talk about it. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper, culture clashes. All right, let me jump on into the Right Side Way monologue. This is interesting. I looked at this and I even did a little research. But let me start by saying it's a given in life that stupid stuff happens. It just does. There's stupid people all around us who will do stupid stuff, and the only thing that can keep them in check is for other folks to point out stupidity and stop enabling it. So yesterday, I've watched the video of so-called pro-Palestinian protesters, led by none other than the allegedly pro-feminist group Code Pink, as they vandalized Lafayette Square Park across from the White House. I mean, y'all, my gosh. They sprayed graffiti on historic monuments. They assaulted police officers. They carried fake bloody heads of the president. They demanded that Biden resign from office immediately and that Israel be forced to somehow end its war on Hamas terrorists. What absolute chumps. Where do they find these people? But the fact is, they did all of it with complete impunity. Nobody told them no. There were no arrests. There was no arrival of anti-riot police to enforce the existing laws. Nobody was held to account for the damage to the park whatsoever. The whole thing was like some weird display in the theater of the absurd. All right, so if you're not familiar with theater of the absurd, I don't blame you. It's not just a phrase, it's a real thing. It's supposedly an art form. Frankly, it sounds depressing, even nihilistic, as it abandons hope in its portrayal of the world. It does. Theater of the absurd is a real thing, though. It was known as a dramatic movement, a socially purposed form of live theater. Basically, it was a play A play with no other purpose except to portray that, quote, man's quest for meaning and truth is a futile endeavor. Wow. So theater of the absurd, it started in the wake of World War II and it lasted roughly 45 years. If you read up on it via some of the more lofty artsy reviews and lesson plans, it will sound as if the arts world, eventually moved on to greater things. In my view, it's likely that they moved on because there was no audience. I mean, people can only go so far into hearing that there's no hope and woe is me and why should I try before they turn away from it. In my view, it's more likely that the so-called theater of the absurd faded off into obscurity because the world just quit enabling the moody, self-absorbed productions that came from it. I mean, who really wants to buy a ticket to go watch a play about hopelessness? Not me. Theater of the absurd provided no solutions. It just aired the grievances and it promoted despair. In reality, theater of the absurd just enabled the sense that life had no meaning and that hope was futile. So what we're seeing right now, though, with these pro-Palestinian protesters is a constant theater of the absurd, and all it does is promote more bad behavior. The left is effectively enabling bad behavior because they're scared to say no. Okay, next point. What does that mean when I say enabling bad behavior? Well, to enable something means to not only allow it, but to actually encourage it to go on. Usually you enable somebody's bad behavior when you do something like, you choose to avoid the conflict, or you deal with a painful or difficult situation by trying to reduce the pain instead of dealing with the problem. We've all seen it happen. Think about this. A child throws a tantrum in Walmart, and you watch the mom who's mortified and embarrassed and hates that people are looking at her, so what does she do? She tells the child she'll buy him a toy if he'll behave. Well, the child stops screaming and gets a toy. But the child also remembers that apparently tantrums get rewarded. And just like that, mom has unfortunately enabled some bad behavior, and it only gets worse from there. So the next toy is bigger, and then the toys become bad behaviors, and then the behaviors become lifestyles, and it always gets bigger. And if no one says no, well, when tantrums are thrown by petulant children, any parent knows at that point you have a choice. You can say no, or you can rush in to give in to the petulant demands, which in the end only makes it worse. Well, everything that we have seen about the left is that tantrums beget tantrums because no one dares to tell the protesters no. Now, take those two concepts and apply them to life in the United States. Theater of the absurd portrays life as helpless, dismal, endless effort for no gain, which is exactly what the left will try to portray to you at every turn. And enabling that thought process is exactly what too many have been doing, and therefore creating the position taken by the left to always scream and act out and expect more, and so they do. And they do. And they do it over and over and over again. I mean, think this through. The basis for most of the left's argument is to tell you that things are hopeless, but they never get told no. Like, for instance, here's one, the environmental movement. All of its green energy demands, rooted in the concept that the earth is going to die on our watch if we don't make endless streams of changes. So the politicians and the corporations and the media, they enable them and they realize they can ask for more, so they keep asking for more. It's not enough now to get celebrities to help save the whales. Now it's moved up to a multi-billion-dollar enterprise to revise the way that we cook, the way that we drive, the way that we eat. All of it funded by politicians who enable the behavior further by passing outlandish appropriations to help prop it all up. No one said no, and thus the green energy activists were enabled to always want more, and they kept getting more. How about the transgender movement? Oh, this is a big one. How about the transgender movement? For years it was, don't ask, don't tell. We're the victims. Then the AIDS epidemic is not our fault at all. And what an adult does in the privacy of their home, their relationships, that's not your concern. And so society enabled the gay movement, which became the LGBTQ2IA+ acronym movement, which became a movement that did away with the legal foundations for marriage between a man and a woman, which became a movement which is now acceptable to surgically alter and chemically castrate minor children. Because corporations and politicians and the media enabled them. They kept throwing tantrums, and nobody said no, and thus they were enabled to always want more. And all of it, y'all, all of it plays out before our very eyes. It's a real-life theater of the absurd. We see the absurdist mentality from the left at every turn now. There was a day when we were all Americans regardless of our day-to-day differences, but now on the world stage, the left has gone from protests at home to protests at large to bowing and apologizing for being America at all the way up to abandoning U.S. citizens and allies and resources in places like Afghanistan and others. We see it on the southern border, as the absurdist leftist policies were first soft on immigration, then they enabled some to become pursuers of so-called dreamer status. Now they're on to the point that we barely have a southern border at all. The absurd mindset of the left will tell us that the great land of opportunity that we live in is really just built on the backs of racism, ableism, extremism, intolerance, greed. And now with that behavior enabled, we have a Secretary of Transportation who's determined to fix racist roads with our tax dollars. Secretary of Defense stops all military training to root out imaginary extremists in the ranks. Time and again, the corporations, the politicians, and the media have just simply enabled bad behavior, and therefore it continues to grow as they enable it in the midst of their theater of the absurd. Well, look, the artsy movement called theater of the absurd, it finally died out. Not because it was a winner, mind you. It died out because it inspired people to hope or empower their dreams. No, quite the opposite. Society actually quit enabling the theater of the absurd because there's only so much ridiculous despair and victimization that most people can stand. In my opinion, it is right now well past time for the bulk of our society, that's you and me and everybody you know, to stop enabling the absurdities of the left and tell them no. There's hope. We are America. I, for one, am tired of it. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. There you have it, theater of the absurd. Man, I'm telling you right now, they're just going to continue to cry and have their fits and throw their tantrums. And when the left continually enables that, all they do is want more. Enabling bad behavior doesn't stop the bad behavior. All it does is give them something to want to scream more about later. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, giving you all the truth to fit on those bumper stickers. By the way, you can watch the show. You can obviously, a lot of y'all are listening to the show on various radio stations, AM and FMs around the northern part of Alabama, lapping over into neighboring states. But you can also stream the show live online. And I just happened to glance over, and I am wearing a bright orange shirt today. It's an Auburn shirt. I will go ahead and say that right up front. And oh, by the way, it's a bootleg shirt. I don't know, Big Rig. I didn't tell you this before the show, did I? I told some. Oh, it was downstairs. I was telling somebody downstairs. Absolute bootleg shirt.
A bootleg Auburn shirt?
Bootleg Auburn shirt. So no lie, I'm wearing a bootleg Auburn shirt. So if you notice, it's got a symbol that looks like a split rail fence. Well, so apparently the story goes the Auburn Ag College decided they're going to come up with their own logo. And they had, if you look at it, it looks like a split rail fence, but it's a WE for War Eagle. So there
looks
it
like
is.
3 Cheetos in front of a claw mark.
That was a useless thing for you to say. 3 Cheetos. Anyway, bottom line is they designed their own logo because they're the ag college. They got like a farm fence. It's made out of split rails and all that. And they were immediately slapped down by the university for coming up with a logo that's not been approved. And so my daughter texted me one day when she was down there, "Dad, what size shirt do you want?" "Excuse me? I don't know. What? Extra large, I guess." "What do you got?" And she sent me this picture, and apparently all the shirts were in a bin out in the lobby of the Ag College, free, take one. So because they had to get rid of them. They couldn't sell them. They weren't allowed to make money off of it, so they had to dispose of them.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that they disposed of them by giving them away. So I have my free bootleg Auburn Ag College shirt.
Nice. Wear it with pride, man.
I can. And I can also go deer hunting in it because, I can be seen from a mile away. I could signal planes with this shirt. All right, several text messages already in. You want to text in or call it in, same number for both, 833-687-4448. Remind me to tell you, by the way, about my bootleg 1st Cavalry Division patch. I'll tell you that one next. Text line, Monty from Huntsville says, "That's absurd with a D, not a B. You're killing me. Absurd." What are you trying to say? A-B-S-U-R-D. Isn't that the word? Absurd? Monty, what is your point? I don't understand. Absurd. Bam.
Did you say absurb?
I never said absurb.
I don't say
absurb. Absurb. Theater of the absurb. No, Monty, put your ears on, dude. Jeff from Indiana. "Phil, I'm afraid you need to go further than just saying no because that only brings on tantrums. I think it should be mixed with a little corporal punishment like you used to get when you was a child. Like when they raise up, all you have to do is give them that look." Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, man, my dad... my dad was not abusive at all, so don't take this that way. I love my dad. He was the best man at my wedding. But when I was a kid, dad discipline was on a different level. Dad discipline was like, at some point, apparently I got the belt, right? And then from then on, all he had to do was give me the look and touch his belt buckle, just touch it. "No, Dad, no. I won't do it anymore, Dad, I won't." That's all he had to do. I just melt into a pile of gush. But yes, Jeff from Indiana, you're correct. Probably a few of these punks did not get the belt when they were growing up. David from Buc-ee's says, "Phil, we need to return to if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about." By the way, there's a video that I just retweeted on my own Twitter feed. You can go to @SenPhilWilliams if you're on Twitter, SEN Phil Williams. It is hilarious. So there's a bunch of UCLA pro-Palestinian protesters, and they're all just doing their thing. And of course, they're all wearing their keffiyeh scarves they ordered off of Amazon, and they're all wearing their masks like they had left over from COVID, and standing there screaming at the police and yelling. Well, one of them is super obnoxious. This young female's got it going on. She's got a bullhorn, and she's in the police face, and she's yelling in their face and saying all kinds of stuff. And then she turns slightly to look at the crowd, thinking she's got it going. And all of a sudden, the ranks of the police part just enough. 2 officers reach out, grab her, and snatch her back behind the police line and put her on the ground, start cuffing her. And the crowd's like, what just happened? You can tell they were completely caught off guard. So yeah, old girl and her bullhorn just went away, just right there on the spot. Was it David from Buc-ee said, "You don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about." All right, well, listen, we're going to take a break here coming up momentarily. John from Huntsville did say, though, by the way, Phil Awesome monologue. Once again, Big Rig has earned 5 extra credit points for playing the spectacular Taco Tuesday sound effect like a true professional. However, Scott Buttram may earn extra credit points more so than Big Rig today. He's already projecting Buttram.
I'm going to have to play the Taco Tuesday again one more time.
And we need to find a few more sound effects for you. Just plus up, man.
Yep.
Because Buttram's calling in. He's already got the leg up with the judge. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one, I'm talking about Alabama. Y'all, this show goes like way down south of Birmingham, up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi all thrown in, just for good measure. Okay, so I mentioned to you, by the way, my bootleg 1st Cavalry Division patch. So this bootleg Auburn shirt's got nothing on this one. All right. So Baghdad 2004. So 1st Cavalry Division is very proud of the fact that they have the largest patch in the entire Army inventory, right? It's giant. It covers your entire upper arm. It's a big like shield shape. It's got a single stripe across it with a horse's head because they're cavalry. And the horse's head on your left sleeve, where you always wear your active duty patch, is facing forward. When you go to combat, you earn what's called a combat patch, which is where you get to wear the patch of the unit you went to war with on the right arm. Except 1st Cav was just not happy because that meant when you put it on your right arm, the horse was facing backwards. That just could not stand. So someone got the bright idea. Let's make a right sleeve patch version. So when you wear it, no matter what happens, either arm, you got the horses facing forward. Yeah, the Department of, or the Institute of Heraldry for the U.S. Army got involved and said, that will not happen. So we were all walking around Baghdad, wearing our bootleg patches on our right sleeves and horse facing forward, charging into battle. But no, that's not going to stand. And the directive came down from division headquarters. Every one of those patches gets taken off, like right away.
Wow.
So I've got several bootleg 1st Cav patches at the house.
Nice.
I suspect they're collector's items.
I mean, they could be.
Worth a lot of monies. I don't know.
You never know. One day it could be.
Maybe it is right now. How about it is to me, at least?
Yeah.
Anyway, bootleg patch. Okay, why am I telling that story? Oh, because I'm wearing my bootleg shirt. That's right. All right, Ken from Rimlap said, Phil, did you just say a 1st Cav patch? The horse we never ride, the line we never cross, the yellow on our backs, 1st Cav humor. Ken, that is absolutely awful. That's one of my combat units. You can't say that, although it is pretty funny, and yes, I've heard it before. Yes, 1st Cav. By the way, if you're not familiar, the renaming of all the bases, I'm just totally chasing rabbits today. What is happening right now? But all of the military bases have been renamed. We got Fort Benning is now Fort Moore, Fort Rucker is now Fort Novacell, Fort Bragg is now Fort Liberty, yada yada yada.
Why are they renaming?
Oh, it's the scary Confederate names. You can't have scary Confederate names because they're scary and they might offend somebody who never knew. How many years did I train at Fort Benning and I've never heard that was a Confederate general? Never.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that to say, Fort Hood out in Texas, the home of 1st Cavalry Division, the largest military installation, I believe, in the U.S. inventory, hosting the largest, combat fighting force, the 1st Cavalry Division. Well, they had to rename it too. And so it's apparently named, I'm going from memory, I think it's Fort Cavazos, named after, a super soldier, last name Cavazos. I think I have it right, Cavazos. Anyway, it's Cavazos, I believe it is. And I asked I asked a family member about that. And I said, Fort Cavazos, that's going to be hard to say. What are you going to say? I'm at Cavazos. I said, Dad, it's my son. He says, Dad, you know why they did that? I said, why? He said, because 1st Cav's there, now they get to call it Fort Cav. And I went, oh, it makes total sense now. I totally get it. All you Cav people out there, you got your own naming convention at the post, but you can't wear your bootleg patch. So there. All right, I'm through chasing rabbits. That was just like totally off the cuff. I have no idea why I went down those rabbit trails. Let's jump on to the first dipper, Law and Order. So it kind of galls me when you see politicians that choose what to enforce and what not. Now, I say that, like, for instance, right now, I'm watching the screens and I'm seeing Hunter Biden was convicted today. So let me just go ahead and caveat some of what I'm going to say by pointing out that I am keenly aware that on this particular day, the son of the Democrat president was just convicted of felony crimes. That's pretty significant. Now, I will also point out he almost got the sweetheart plea deal that nobody in the world should ever be allowed to get. And it was the judge who stepped in and said, what is this about? This does not make sense, and made them withdraw the plea deal. If you remember, the Biden DOJ was trying to offer him a plea deal that not only got out of the charges that he was convicted of today, but like absolved him of future things he hadn't even done yet. I mean, it was like, this is just a get out of jail. Why don't you just give him a get out of jail free card? That's all this is. And the judge looked at it and said, can someone explain to me if anyone has ever been given a deal like this before? And the answer was no, Your Honor. Well, then we're not doing it either. And the judge refused to allow the plea deal to go forward. As a result, Hunter Biden's case, tried to a jury this week and parts of last week, went to the jury yesterday, came out before lunch today, guilty on all counts. Guilty, by the way, and don't forget, by the way, he's also got another trial coming up. I think it's September, on millions of dollars in tax evasion and false filings, lying to the IRS. That's going to be a big one, actually. That one may even carry more penalties than the one he's in. He faces a potential of 25 years in jail off of what he was convicted of today. What was he convicted of today, Phil? He was convicted of lying on the forms to get a firearm. What? Yep. The reason why they didn't want this to go forward is A, he was the president's son. B, he's a Democrat. But C, they did not want to have to deal with the fact that the so-called laptop from hell that everybody had tried to deny was even real, and even said, oh, by the way, this is nothing but a piece of Russia collusion. The laptop from hell had to be entered into evidence certified by the FBI as being legitimate, and contents thereon were played as evidence in the course of the trial. Y'all, it was everything the Dems did not want to have seen in public. And so as I see him getting convicted, and I know the Democrat mantra, all the talking heads are going to say, well, keep in mind, I mean, even the president's own son was convicted. Yeah, after they tried to get away with this freaky plea deal, after they tried to get away with lying about the laptop, which they, by the way, they did that in part to try and swing the last election. So yeah, basically what happened was they got caught and they had no choice but to prosecute. Now, he was convicted technically of a gun-related crime. Not gun use per se, but he was trying to obtain a firearm in violation of federal law, lying on his forms, and also, by the way, lying about his own drug use in order to be able to get a firearm, because the evidence clearly showed that he was absolutely a crack addict at the time. So here's old boy Hunter Biden, convicted today of gun-related crimes, and I kid you not, but at the same time the jury's coming out with their with their announcement of the conviction, the father, Joe Biden, is speaking at a gun control conference. No lie. Moms for Action, this massive gun control, cabal that wants to just do away with the Second Amendment altogether. Joe Biden is literally, at the same time his son is being convicted of gun-related crimes, is speaking at a gun control conference. Hello, pot. Meet the kettle you just called black. This is your family. And you can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is not even my dipper for the day, but I looked at the news breaking this morning and I thought my dippers were already prepared and I'd already sent them in, and Alicia here at the office was putting them together for me and printed for them so I could highlight them and all that. And then Hunter Biden, and then Joe Biden speaks at a conference, and I'm like, my God. If somebody were to say, we're going to create a Saturday Night Live skit and we're going to do certain things, I would think that this could fall in line with the Saturday Night Live skit writers, efforts. They couldn't create parody like this. It's like, okay, I'm gonna, you know what? I'm just off script. I'm just dropping the script. I'm going with my gut here. So I don't know how you're going to put this in the podcast. Title it whatever you want to. Call it Phil Goes Off on a Rant. I don't know what you want to call this, but the reality is, today we saw the most cavalier of presidents who flaunts the Constitution, says that your constitutional rights, the Bill of Rights, are not absolute, and his own son is convicted of crimes thereof, and he goes and speaks to a conference and tries to uphold the mantra that we need to take care of all this. Okay. Now, at the same time last night, I don't know if you've seen this or not. I was showing Big Rig right before the show. I actually tweeted this out on my social media last night at Sinphil Williams on Twitter. Have you seen the video of the Juneteenth celebration at the White House? And by the way, I don't mind Juneteenth at all. I mean, I understand you're celebrating the day that the last black slaves realized they'd been emancipated, when the news got to them. And so Juneteenth, that's awesome. But it's also been used as a pandering opportunity, so much so that I'm pretty sure we're going to have Juneteenth month for too long, because the Biden administration had a big Juneteenth celebration last night. Was last night the 19th of June? No, it was the 10th of June. It's just when they had the celebration. I don't know how to explain it. And it was like something out of the Hunger Games. Have you seen it? It was like something out of the Hunger Games. You got, so, and I usually don't comment on this because it's not always necessary, but Joe Biden looked absolutely infirm. So there's a crowd on the lawn of the White House, and they've got some concert going on. I don't know what was happening. You couldn't see that part of it. You could hear the music. And there's Kamala and her husband, the first man, and they're doing a little jig, and they're trying to keep time with the music, and people all around them are like waving their hands in the air and clapping and having a good time. Standing right next to them was a tall, bearded dude with dreadlocks in a sequin dress. I am not making this up. Can you give me are you kidding me? You got to give me a sound effect here. I'm like,
are you kidding me?
That'll work. Play it louder. Just do it.
Are you kidding me?
There you go. You get extra points. See, I'm just plussing you up here, bro. So you got Sequin Boy with the beard dancing and having the best time right next to the vice president. In the meantime, Joe Biden is standing there and he looks absolutely 100% lost. Like everybody else is getting jiggy. And Joe is standing there completely frozen in time. Hands kind of slightly bent, like he doesn't know what's happening.
He looks like a mannequin.
He did. He looked like he was posing for a suit at Joseph A. Bank.
Yeah.
I mean, so, Men's Warehouse, the dummy is standing in the corner wearing the latest gray suit. That's what it looked like. Anyway. And I sent that video out on my social media, and I said, if somebody said, let's create a parody of the Biden administration, you would look at it and go, oh yeah, and then you realize it's real. I don't know what they had him juiced on last night, but I mean, old boy was stoned out of his gourd. In the meantime, you got Beard Boy with the sequin dress, and all I have to say is that's our commander-in-chief. That's the White House. That's the leadership of this great nation. Whatever happened to, we're going to restore some decorum. Phil, they were celebrating Juneteenth. No, they weren't. They were pandering. What's the transvestite got to do with anything standing there? Well, trannies have rights too for Juneteenth. Oh, were all the tranny slaves emancipated on Juneteenth? No, it was a pandering opportunity to be as left and as weird as they could be. And meanwhile, Joe was past his bedtime and did not know what to do. He went up there, by the way, got up on stage, gave one of the shortest speeches he's ever given. It was a pandering speech. It just told everybody why it's just impossible to be a black person in America and how your country doesn't love you, but we're going to keep trying to fight for you. Stay with us, Democrats, we'll take care of you. And then he slurred the words. There were times when you couldn't understand what he was saying. And then he got lost getting off the stage, and the guard had to actually point to him and how to get to the stairs, and he did. He had to turn and go, oh, there it is. And he left, and he was gone for the night. Done. Oh, all right. I just went on a total rant. That happened in the last 12 hours. Are you going to take me to a break, or are you just going to stare at me the whole time? I'm sitting here. It is 2:40. We are running long here, brother. We're going to come back, have just enough time to say Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, and go back to the next break. But it is Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right, and we will be back. Y'all stay tuned. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Like making common sense like a superpower. So there's a guy named Greg Price that I follow on Twitter. I just happened to see it. So he's actually got a video clip on his Twitter feed of Biden at the Moms Demanding Action gun control conference today. He says Joe Biden, in less than a minute, claimed he was a professor at UPenn, which he never was. Claims he taught a constitutional law class on the Second Amendment, which he never did. Said you could own a cannon when Second Amendment was implemented, which you could. I said you couldn't own a cannon when Second Amendment was implemented, which you could. And ends by failing miserably to say the phrase, "The tree of liberty is watered with the blood of patriots." And all by the way, talking about this gun control and gun safety issue, at the same time his son's conviction on gun-related issues was coming out. Unbelievable. Can't write this stuff. We got a brand new texter in the line. Didn't tell us who he was, so tell us who you are and where you're from so we can plug you in. He says, question I have is simple. What drug dealer has the audacity to sell drugs to the President of the United States' son? Didn't Hunter have Secret Service also following him around since he's buying drugs? If so, we allow this to just happen? Tax dollars protecting drug deals? So I am not clear as to whether or not Hunter was actually buying drugs himself or somebody was getting them and probably handing them to him, which is more likely. But then the other piece of this is he definitely was doing this during a time when his father had been the vice president and I would assume still had Secret Service details in the post-vice presidency. Thomas from Athens says, I am not Biden's doctor, but my best friend over 80 observes Joe. My friend has Parkinson's and knows about the meds that can diminish symptoms thereof for diminishing the numbers of hours as the disease progresses. Wow. I feel certain that they're helping him. I'm not a doctor. I'm not gonna try to pretend that I have a diagnosis for him, but you can just watch and tell that something is not well. Something is not right. Devin from Brownsboro says, did the judge give Hunter Biden a sentencing date? Do you think he'll serve any real time, and do you believe that Joe will keep his word that he will not pardon his son? I believe that Joe will not pardon his son. I think that somebody future will. In fact, I wouldn't be a bit surprised to find out that Trump would. Who knows? But did he give him a sentencing date? No, I don't think it's been announced yet. If I'm wrong, somebody can correct me, but I don't believe the sentencing date has been announced yet. But I do know that the other trial he has to go through for lying on the tax to the IRS and evading taxes happens in September, right before the election. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, did you hear the part where Trump said he would pardon Hunter? Oh, no. Okay, there it is. I did not hear that. Said I hope he doesn't, but old Joe will. I don't know. I think it'd be something else. I think it'd be a healing thing if he did. First of all, I don't think that Hunter's going to wind up spending any time in jail. I don't. It was a nonviolent crime for which he's been convicted. I think there will wind up being some measure of restitution. I think there'll probably also be, probably some kind of, house arrest or parole. But I don't know that he'll spend any time in. Meanwhile, Steve Bannon is in jail for 4 months because he didn't answer a congressional subpoena to the Democrats. Unbelievable. And then KB from Hartsville says, if you ain't Cav, I hear you, Sergeant First Class. I hear you. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, Scott Buttram. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all of the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2. I don't even know where hour number 1 went. It just I was just gone. I was on a rant.
Chasing rabbits.
I had to get a steroid shot from my neck this morning, and I'm pretty sure I'm having roid rage right now on the radio. Just going at it, brother. But I will say that JT Lacey Springs has told me to keep chasing rabbits, so I'll do it. In the meantime, let me bring on somebody else who can add some commentary. We're going to jump on into the discussion on law and order. Law and order here at home and abroad, and what the differences are between liberals and progressives when it comes to law and order. So without further ado, let me bring on the prince of punditry, the harbinger of truth, the publisher of all things newsworthy at the Trustful Tribune, our buddy Scott Buttram. Scotticus, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm good. You never get introductions anywhere else like you do with me.
Nothing else compares. I mean, Johnny Carson would have to raise from the dead and come even get in the ballpark.
Here's Scotty. Listen. I saw this story and it kind of got me going down this thread about down in I think it was down in Washington State. That's where it was. And there was they paint the big rainbow mural in the street. Like no one's ever going to drive over it. And then some teen kids on a lark on scooters left skid marks, and they are facing $15,000 bond and jail time for defacing the rainbow monument that was painted in the middle of the freaking road. And I look at this and think, that's what we're going to focus on right now. Meanwhile, I've got massive crime rate spiking in Birmingham, in Montgomery. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I would say give the state of Washington and Oregon a little time, and they'll probably make running over transgender decal or a LGBT decal in the street a capital offense.
Yeah,
we've completely lost touch with reality, Bill. I think Sarah Huckabee said it best. This is no longer a battle between the right and the left. This is a battle between the sane and the insane.
Yes,
and that has become. I don't know if you caught this. I think it was last week. Eisner, the second in command from the Tabitha Eisner, second in command from the Alabama Democrats, is on Capitol Journal. I'm assuming Todd Stacey was trying to give the Democrats equal time to discuss platform and policy issues in the legislature. But she uses it to do nothing but parrot other liberal pundits. That's all in the world she used it for. She didn't address any policies. Just talked about calling Republicans victims. So that's the new Republican thing. Republicans are all victims now, which we all know that is exactly the playbook for the Democrats.
That's their gig, man.
Everybody's a victim now. But that's the game they play. They do it, and they turn around and call the conservatives what they are actually doing. Crime and law and order. You and I were talking about this during the break, Phil. They don't mean it when they talk about it, and I'm talking about Democrats and liberals in general. But they don't want law and order. They work daily, year-round, round the clock to avoid law and order, to eliminate law and order, to free criminals, sometimes violent criminals, from our jails. And you're right. You've got Randall Woodfin, mayor of Birmingham, one of the 3 or 4 deadliest cities in the entire country based on homicides per capita. And he's talking about gun laws? Seriously?
Yeah.
He is telling his police department not to enforce marijuana laws.
Yeah.
He has repeatedly told the police to look the other way on gambling laws. They don't have time for that. Jefferson County Sheriff will not make a gambling arrest, will not bust illegal gaming. The DA of Jefferson County is plea bargaining everything that comes through his office, quite often dropping gun charges, by the way. Go back and look at how many plea bargains remove the most violent charges and drop gun charges just to get a plea bargain with these people and get them back on the streets. it's the biggest racket I've ever seen. And then they stand there and they scream they want law and order because you've got no local media holding them accountable. So it's where we are, and we're going to continue to see more of it because they're going to keep getting away with it.
Well, yeah, and I agree with everything you just said, and it's classic. Liberal Mayor Randall Woodfin is literally, talking about how he's celebrating Pride Month because everyone in Birmingham should have the right to thrive, he said. And I changed it and sent it back out on Twitter and said, here, let me fix this for you. I've decided to crack down on capital murder because everyone in Birmingham has a right to live. How about that? That's where we should be right now. Focus on the majors, not on the minors. And I know they'll say we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but it's obvious their eye is off the ball, though.
You would think keeping his citizens alive would be the priority. You would think, especially, and remember, we cover these crimes every day, Phil. The city of Trussville is connected to the city of Birmingham. Much of our coverage area touches the city of Birmingham. We cover these homicides on a weekly basis, and many of these victims and suspects are teenagers.
Yeah.
They're kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had another kid shot in Birmingham last week. So if that were a priority, then he would be addressing the source of that priority. It's not the guns. It's people that live in Birmingham and will not obey the law, led by a mayor who routinely tells police to ignore the law.
Yeah, equally frustrating, too, is right down the road. The other liberal mayor, major city liberal mayor in Alabama, of course, is Stephen Reed, mayor of Montgomery. And mayor of Montgomery, literally, a story from our friends at 1819 came out about a week ago that on the same day his police were having to respond to a triple homicide in Montgomery, and crime's through the roof right now. He was also asking for a $6 million fund to do a community violence initiative, which is basically a think group, feel good thing. Meanwhile, murder in the streets. How about you just focus on policing? That's a big deal.
Well, Montgomery and Birmingham decided to wear orange and release orange balloons over this past weekend in response to multiple homicides in both cities. While Birmingham was actually celebrating and wearing their orange, there were 3 homicides.
Oh, see, I mean, I look at it. I mean, and I did a lot of my growing up in Birmingham. In fact, I did a lot of my growing up in what is referred to as West Birmingham, and in Inslee and Wylam and that area, and just the deterioration of that legendary part of the city. What used to be called the Magic City is just, it's got to stop. I don't think people are paying attention to the fact, too, that on Woodfin's watch, they dropped so far in the census that they are now the 3rd biggest city, whereas they were the 1st biggest city. And yet right up the road, Huntsville is doing everything different than Birmingham and thriving like nobody's business, or really everybody's business. So you can't say it's because we're in Alabama, we're being held back by the man. No, right? Like an hour north of you, they're thriving.
Right. The Birmingham's population has almost reached the 50% point of its peak.
Yeah.
Well over 300,000 in the 70s, and now they're under 200,000. The next census is not going to be kind to them. People are evacuating the city as fast as they can. And who can blame them? Some of the worst schools, easily the highest violent crime rate in the state of Alabama. Stephen Reed in Montgomery and Randall Woodfin in Birmingham, they're mirror images of each other.
Yeah,
Phil, these guys are clones of each other.
Yeah.
They think the same mentality. They chase the same rhetoric. Woodfin he's announced that he's going to run for a 3rd term of mayor. Well, I don't know if he's announced, but he's going to. I'm told he has higher aspirations, but I don't know what's next for him. I mean, he could actually run against Terry Sewell, who has done an equally horrible job in her congressional district. But that's all they do. They'll just swap places. They'll swap chairs. The areas that they represent will continue to decline based almost entirely on the violence and the poverty of the areas that they oversee. But they're busy virtue signaling over stuff like Pride Month that is not going to help anyone in their community, not going to feed any kids, and not going to keep any bullets from hitting another teenager next week.
Yeah, and meanwhile, by the way, Mayor Stephen Reed in Montgomery decided to blame the legislature for passing open carry which is just basically like saying affirming your Second Amendment rights as somehow being to blame for the gun violence in his city, which the reality is he's got violence. The fact that guns are being used is indicative of the fact that there are violent people that are not being arrested in his city right now or prosecuted in his city.
Well, same thing I said about Birmingham earlier and the gun laws and the gun violence. When I see Stephen Reed and when I see Randall Woodfin publicly call out the Montgomery and Jefferson County district attorneys for dropping gun charges and for plea bargaining down cases and dropping violent charges to get a plea bargain. When I hear them calling out the person who most controls getting violent criminals off of their streets, then we can talk about federal gun laws, which you and I both know would not have stopped a single crime in either of these cities.
No, it wouldn't. And we're going to continue to see the decline if they don't.
Are we going to delude ourselves into believing that some guy who would pull out a gun and murder another person over an argument would not have had that gun because he would not have dared violate the carry conceal permit?
Well,
are we serious here?
Now, give the criminals a little credit. They pay their permit fees. You know that's true. Come on.
Well, they might as well. It was only $250 a year. I mean, you can't even get a Happy Meal for $2.50 anymore.
Well, you and I, we can talk about this, and it's frustrating to watch because I know you well enough to know you're not a fan of Birmingham. You love Birmingham, Jefferson County. You've chosen to make that your place. And I grew up in a lot of that area, and I want to see the Magic City come back. I really do. I would love for it to rise back up to being the biggest in the state. That'd be cool because it means good things are happening. But right now, it ain't happening.
You brought up growing up in West Birmingham. My great grandfather would practice dentistry in the Ramsey McCormick building.
Oh yeah,
that was the tooth store. He is actually listed in the ribbon cutting program.
No kidding.
For the ribbon cutting. He was in there when they opened the building. My grandmother moved out when they closed that building. I ran the streets of Inslee as a little kid by myself.
Man, yeah.
Everybody looked out after everybody. There was no problem. I won't drive through there in broad daylight.
Yeah.
My grandparents built their first house in Bush Hills. I love that part of Birmingham. I love downtown Birmingham. I really and truly do not go as often as I used to because of the violence.
No, it's exactly right. It's no longer, the streets no longer safe there, and it's a crying shame, and it's because of liberal policies that have allowed it to deteriorate and get that way. Scott, we appreciate you as always. Scott Buttram, publisher of the Trustful Tribune. We'll talk to you again soon, brother.
Appreciate you. Appreciate those ruffians. Y'all have a good day, Phil.
Take care, man. All right, we got to take a break right there. That was good. I knew it would be good. It always is when he calls in. He's got great insights. He really does have his finger on the pulse of news, and especially in that area of the state, but really all over. All right, Phil Williams, Law and Order. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Going to continue a little bit more in this thread we've got called, the dipper we've got called Law and Order. I'll give you some facts and details to back up that conversation we just had with Scott Buttram. Before I do that, I'll get a few text messages so I don't get too far behind. Chef Ben from Anianta. By the way, he's a great chef. Chef Ben from Anianta says, oh, this is off topic. He says, what is this? We said, what on earth is this Project 2025 propaganda I keep hearing about? I'll tell you what, Chef Ben, I know a little bit about it, just enough to be dangerous. I don't know a lot. I do know that it's not it's not like a movement per se. It is, but it's not. It's more of a group that is trying to put together the conservative policies that they recommend that the new incoming Trump administration would put into effect. They even have what they call their 180-day playbook, like don't waste time, seize the moment, do these things in 180 days to try and get us out of the left's devastating policies. Sounds good. I haven't dug into it to really see who they are. Maybe I need to reach out to them and see if I can get them on the show. That might be the way to go. Anyway, that's what I know there, Chef Ben. Lisa from Huntsville says, yeah, she's talking about old sequin dude standing out there with his beard in sequin dress at the Juneteenth celebration. She sends a picture of Jamie Foxx when he was on the show In Living Color wearing a very similar costume.
I used to love that show.
That was a crazy show, man.
Yeah.
John from Harvest says, Phil, enjoying the show. I just saw where New York State gun stores will soon be required to post warning signs that guns in your home can be dangerous. This does not speak well about New Yorkers' intellect. Yes. That's like saying, this the same people that think that's going to really help stuff are the ones that cause us to have warning labels on things like one of my favorites is don't iron clothes while naked, because you know that somebody swung that iron over and not good, or the ones that say things that you look at and go that is so obvious. Why does it require a warning label? Anyway, that's where we are. The dumbing down of America. We're here to rescue you from yourself and from the trial lawyers. Because if we put the warning on the label, then the trial lawyers can't sue you. Doesn't really work that way, just so you know. I mentioned earlier Law and Order. And I'll probably wind up talking about this a little bit later in the show if I get to the Culture Clash section that I've got laid on, the Dipper 3. But, I mentioned that the thing that got my attention about Law and Order is a story out of Washington State, Spokane, Washington. Spokane, Washington painted the big, giant rainbow mural in the middle of the street. And I have to ask before I go to, and we're going to take a break momentarily, but I have to ask, if you're going to paint a big rainbow mural in the middle of the street and then get upset when there's tire marks on it, I have to ask, what did you actually expect to happen? It will not remain pristine because tires are going to go over it because it's in the street. Here's an idea. If you want to get the rainbow mural really, really going, get a billboard. Nobody can run over it then, right? That's all you got to do. But no. We got to paint the street. Black Lives Matter. Got to be painted down the street. And then they get upset when people drive on it. And then you got 3 teens right now, prosecutors requesting $15,000 bond for 3 teenagers who, in an evidence of what this article from the Daily Mail calls malicious mischief, allegedly vandalized the Pride mural by running over it with their scooters. Let that sink in. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one right here. I'm talking about Alabama, y'all. Love this state. And I mean to say this show goes like way down south of Birmingham, up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. By the way, before I go any further on this first dipper, I'm doing Law and Order right now. Got delayed because of my rant earlier. I got to pause here a second and give you guys something big to think about and something free to take with you. All right, so here's the deal. This is a crazy world, right? It is. This show points it out all the time. It's a crazy world, and here you are. You're working hard to plan for your future, to stand for your beliefs. Well, let me ask you this. What if you found out that in the middle of doing so, that some of your investments are actually going to things that are absolutely contrary to what you believe in? Well, maybe, if that's the case, maybe it's time for you to meet Paul Breyer. Paul Breyer and his team of PhDs and financial experts at our newest sponsor, Inspire Advisors. Look, I'm talking about financial planning that considers like who you are, what you believe, and, oh, by the way, your bottom line. Yes. These are solid experts. They're using biblically responsible investing, data-driven strategies to maximize your returns and doing so in a way that has like real impact on your bottom line, but also on the world in which we live. This is, by the way, when we take all that into account, I call this financial freedom in a big way. So here's the free thing I was talking about. You might want to check out your investments. You might want to go get a look at where they are right now. Go get a free impact report from these guys at Inspire Advisors. Go to moneypatternwealth.com. That's www.moneypatternwealth.com. Get a free impact report. You can also find them real quickly just by going to rightsideradio.org, go to our sponsors page and click on their logo. Takes you straight to it. Listen, this is conservative, godly, balanced financial freedom with our newest sponsor, Inspire Advisors, at moneypatternwealth.com. Check them out. All right, I am going to just go straight into this topic again because I got to give you guys some other things to think about. So here we are, and I'm almost kind of tongue in cheek and yet not talking about this situation out in Portland. Is it Portland? Yeah, Portland, Washington. Spokane, Washington. I'm sorry, Spokane, Washington. You got 3 kids on scooters. I like saying it. Scooters. There are 3 kids on their little electric scooters, and they came along, and there's the freshly painted Pride mural in the middle of the street. And what did they do? Well, they're kids, and they're on scooters, and there's a big shiny rainbow in the street. So what do you think they did? Well, they ran over it. If they didn't want people to run over it, they shouldn't have painted it in the street. Never mind. These kids have now been arrested, held on $15,000 bond. Luckily, the judge saw fit to go ahead and release them on their own recognizance, but they face jail time. Meanwhile, the scooter company is called Lime. I don't know why you call your company Lime, but okay. Anyway, the scooter company is Lime. Lime was shocked and dismayed that their scooters would be used for such a hate crime. Here's what their actual statement said. All of us at Lime condemn these vile acts in no uncertain terms at a time when our teams at Lime are beginning their pride celebrations around the globe. It's disturbing to see the hate taking place in Spokane. Maybe it wasn't hate. Maybe it was kids and mischief. Okay. We will not let the hateful few spoil the joy of Pride Month in Spokane. We are grateful for those working to make Spokane more welcoming for all. It's not welcoming when your focus of your law enforcement is to arrest 3 kids for riding scooters over your painted rainbow. Meanwhile, let's take a look at what happened right outside the White House gate. Right outside the White House gate. This is, by the way, Lafayette Park. This is our park. This is part of your historical park infrastructure. If you didn't see the videos, I encourage you to go take a look. Because the Secret Service and the D.C. Police and the U.S. Park Police all told the Washington Free Beacon, a story here, I've got it on Daily Wire, that they did not arrest a single person, despite the fact that for hours they sat out there assaulting police officers, throwing things at police officers, graffiti all over national monuments, climbing up on the monuments and hanging Palestinian flags and lighting smoke bombs on them, and wearing terrorist headbands while holding up fake bloody heads of President Biden. Now, I'm not a fan of Joe Biden, but that is awful. That is literally inciting violence. That's like saying, we want you and we're going to behead you. And they were even shouting about the guillotines are getting ready. So they're calling for violence. Not a single person arrested. Reporter Julio Rosas was there. He says anti-Israel protesters formed a mob and chased the U.S. Park Police and Secret Service out of Lafayette Square after officers apparently tried to arrest someone. Police are no longer inside the park and are on the boundaries of the protest. Here's what they should have done. They should have painted a rainbow on the ground inside of Lafayette Park. That way they could have arrested everybody for daring to walk on it. The National Park Service did have to power wash all the sculptures. They said there's notable damage, including graffiti and damage to some of the structures and damage to park infrastructure in Lafayette Park. Not a single arrest, not a one. Every one of them's on video. Not a single arrest. Meanwhile, back here at home, you heard Scott Butterman and I talking about what's happening in Montgomery and Birmingham. I know there's crime in other places too, but they are right now the lead. Really, Birmingham's one of the lead in the nation for pro rata homicides. But at a time when his police force is responding to a triple homicide, liberal Mayor Stephen Reed of Montgomery was asking the city council to raise an occupational tax and give him an additional $6 million to use for a community violence initiative. An initiative. And then he turned his attention to the idea that the legislature should not have passed open carry, or not carry, but permitless carry, because that has exacerbated the gun violence. Because everybody knows the criminals were paying attention to the permit laws. Majoring in the minors does not save lives. Now, you might be able to do certain things, but do the big ones first, please. Do the big ones well before you get lost in things like, we're going to make sure we paint a pride mural on the street because that's what's important to the people of this area. It's not. It's things like this story from 1819 News. When a mother named Amy Dix was rushed to the hospital, treated for her wounds, was paralyzed from the chest down because of a crossfire shooting that she got caught in. And a group of residents went to the Montgomery City Council. And they called out the mayor and the city council, and they said that this story, by the way, came out 3 weeks ago. And they said that literally we should not have to, this is one of the speakers was Jamel Brown, says we should not have to live every single day in fear of our lives that somebody's going to get hurt. Another one said, one of two things are going to happen. I'm sorry. This is one of the. That's right. I'm sorry. One of the city councilmen took issue. Said you're going to have to stop clapping, or I'm going to ask you to leave, because the crowd was. I mean, come on. And then, in an emotional recounting, Amy Dix's mother, Frida Owens, detailed the events, and said that it was an amazing thing. Said at 1:12 p.m. on a Friday, midday, I answered my phone. Mama, I've been shot. I'm going to die. Mama, I've been shot. I love you. I can't move. I love you. In the streets of our capital city. One of the speakers, a Montgomery resident named Keith McCormick, stood up and said, in Montgomery in 2020, we had 200,000 residents. In 2022, we've dropped down to 197,000. We've lost 3,000 people have left Montgomery just since Mayor Reed was elected a few years ago. He says, you're the CEO of the city and you've lost control of the city from a crime perspective. In any organization or program where the CEO has lost control of a major area of responsibility, good CEOs step down because they're just not cut out for the job. And then let's talk about Birmingham. ABC 3340 has a story that came out almost exactly a month ago. Jefferson County, it says, experienced more than a 20-year high in homicides in 2021, but since then, homicides have been trending slightly down, and that's good. But we still have 59 total murder investigations going on in 2024, whereas there were more than that in 2023, slightly. But we still had 3 separate homicides in a 3-day period. And most of the homicides in Birmingham are all happening in the same areas of town. And yet the people in those communities, says one lady, Nadia Bryant, are sick of the violence and they hear gunshots almost every day. And she said it's a big impact on our community as a whole, not just the community, but the older people that live here, the people that have been here for years, and them having to see the uptick of crime. So we need a police department that is going to show the public that they're going to put responsible people behind bars. And yet, let's take another story here real quickly before the break. Birmingham police, according to AL.com, story that broke about 3 weeks ago. Birmingham police are down nearly 300 officers. Nearly 300 officers below where they need to be. Amid mounting reports of deadly violence, according to AL.com, the Birmingham Police Department is operating with nearly 300 fewer officers than the city has set aside money to pay. They can't fill them. The actual number is 296 unfilled positions, according to the Birmingham City Council's numbers. The council budgeted for 720 officers, but they can't hire anybody. You know why? Because they don't support them. Because they don't give them the ability to do their jobs. Because you have a mayor that excuses crime, and you have a prosecutor that won't prosecute crime, and you have police officers that don't feel supported. At the same time, it says, the city faces weeks of high-profile deadly violence with a thinner police force trying to deal with jumps and emergency calls, and response times are lagging. The city council this week approved a plan for what's called a Citizens Observer Patrol. Great. Using volunteers. Awesome. 200 volunteers who are not police officers to help patrol neighborhoods. That's called a community watch, really. One particular member of the Birmingham Fraternal Order of Police said, we're having 3-year, 5-year, 9-year, and 13-year vets all packing up and leaving. So obviously there's some issues there that we got to work out. We're trying to iron out a couple things and present a plan to the mayor's office, but money is not the problem. Yeah, money is not the problem. That's because morale is low. They said it's short-sighted right now to present a plan without addressing the causes of reduced police force. He said because of low morale in the department, some officers are leaving for lower-paying jobs in order to work in a better environment. That is on Mayor Woodfin's watch. And you wonder why we're one of the highest per capita cities in the nation for homicides. Yes, it's trended down just a little bit since last year. Great, I'm glad. We're 300 police officers short of where it's supposed to be. And they can't get anybody in there to fill the roles. Because it's window dressing. We have the money to hire them. You have the money to hire them at low wages without truly giving them the support they need. How about this? You fund new equipment. You make a commitment to prosecute crime. You determine that you're not going to major in the minors. So Woodfin's out there just, a week or so ago? Just talking about how glad he is to be able to celebrate Pride Month. Because every citizen has a right to thrive. How about this? Every citizen has a right to live. And Mayor Woodfin and Mayor Stephen Reed are failing miserably in that regard. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come right back. I'll get some text messages and move it to the 4 o'clock hour. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. are. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. I'm going to take some text messages and go to the phones because I see Brian from Huntsville's on line one. Brian, buddy, how you doing?
Doing okay, sir. Other than that, I think it's so pathetic the mayoral candidates or the mayoral entities in Birmingham and Montgomery can't seem to lead. There's a reason that in the past, generals and leaders led from the front.
Yeah.
Because if they're leading from the back and everything and they give something that doesn't make any sense, nothing puts fear into the troops like that.
No, I totally agree. I mean, and I wonder I can picture areas of Birmingham that I know and love that are just high crime areas now. What would it take for Mayor Woodfin to go and live there for a few weeks and to see what it felt like to hear gunshots at night around your house?
Bingo.
Yep. Yeah. All right, man. Thank you, brother.
Raise it to another level, what about our armed forces having trouble meeting recruiting?
Oh yeah.
That points to leadership to me.
Absolutely does. Absolutely does. Thank you, brother. Appreciate
Have a good one, sir.
Yeah, you too.
Goodbye.
I got some text messages I'll jump on real quick. Brand spanking new in the text line. Calls himself, is it John John? Yeah, John John from Minor. Put him down if you would, please. He's John John from Minor. Says, love the show, what you doing, and praise the Father for you. Man, thank you very much. Appreciate that very much. John John, you're in the text lines. Big Rig is plugging your name in right now. Just text anytime you want to. Kelly from Athens says, Athens Republican headquarters is selling Trump convicted felon 2024 T-shirts, and they're going right out of the box.
I actually want one of those.
That's
just for funny.
Oh man! Well, you know where to probably call and get them, man. We can square you away. Yeah. Tell you what, Kelly, if you want to text us how we can get one from outside the county, let us know. Barry from Fultondale says, Phil, have you heard what 1819 News reported on that several high school and college bands from out of? Yeah, I did. So I actually talked to one of the parents. So Barry from Fultondale is talking about a story that came out over the weekend that the Jacksonville State University and the Boaz High School bands had worked and saved money for 2 years to go over and take part in the D-Day celebration. Now, they were able to participate in some aspects of it, but they had fundraisers. I mean, they everything, and they got over there, and Biden decided to do a photo op near one of the locations. The security shut down the roads, cut them off from all their instruments. They were not able to be there for the wreath-laying ceremony at Normandy. And after 2 years of planning and preparation, because the Biden administration had a last-minute change in schedule, by the way, it wasn't planned, for a photo op, it left them unable to participate in the thing they'd been planning for 2 years. It's pretty awful. Barry from Fultondale, thanks for bringing that up. Glenn from, and by the way, I texted one of the parents who actually texted me to make sure I knew and gave me some details, and yeah, it was legit. Glenn from Bluntsville, Birmingham recruitment is suffering for the same reason the military is unable to meet its goals. They are woke. I would agree. Thomas from Athens says, I visit family in less than safe New Orleans. There's a website, maybe provided by Tourism Bureau, that provided maps of the city showing incidences of various crimes. Oh, wow. Says the visitors like me can get current data about where not to go. Oh my gosh, that's awful that you have to do that though. Dorothy from Elkmont sent me a status of something on Twitter. We'll check that out in a minute. Thank you very much. Nafre from Lexington says, bring consequences back for committing crimes. These folks know there's no punishment for their actions. I would agree with you. Francisco from Huntsville, just a couple of takes. One, pay the police, sheriffs, and all civil service like the military. And number two, empty all prisons by deporting them to other countries and start from zero. I'm with you. Francisco. Mike from Huntsville, just heard today at the Armed Forces Luncheon that Huntsville and the state of Alabama have already exceeded their recruiting goals for this year. Alabama's leading the way. Outstanding. And then Tyler from Huntsville says, maps of the city is correct. Yeah, he heard me. Okay, thank you, Tyler. Appreciate you. I'm not going to repeat it, but I thank you very much. I was hoping nobody caught that. All right. Listen, we're gonna take a break right now. We're going to come back. I'm going to Dipper number 2. If you missed it, I had an epic rant I had my monologue followed by an epic rant that literally became a dipper of its own. I would encourage you to find that on podcast. So there's that. I jumped in and we had an hour of the first one, Law and Order. This next topic is going to be wild. I'm calling it Drag Queens and Blackface. Oh, let that be the teaser of a lifetime. Yeah, Rightside Radio. Tell your friends. He's about to do something called Drag Queens and Blackface. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Compare and contrast. Why is one okay and the other's not? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. Like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, hey, by the way, let me remind you guys several things about Rightside. We are indeed a business unto ourselves. Rightside Media is the parent company of Rightside Radio. Rightside Media has other mediums to which we send out the good word about conservatism in today's modern world. Let me just encourage you, go check out our website, rightsideradio.org. All our stuff's on there. And the latest edition of the brand new video podcast comes out tomorrow. I believe there's 7 episodes that are up now. But the video podcast is called The Right Philosophy, and it is filmed at my house. Love doing it. We're really proud of the quality of the production. But yeah, the next episode of The Right Philosophy is available tomorrow. You can find it on the website at rightsideradio.org. We also are hitting epic levels right now for downloads of the podcasted audio version of the show. So you guys are all listening live right now. Some of y'all are streaming it online. We got folks watching it on Rumble and Twitter and all of them.
Yeah, Twitch,
and
YouTube.
YouTube, streaming audio and video. Mm-hmm. But every day after the show, the big rig takes the show and converts it into audio podcast form, breaks it up into pieces so you can get smaller portions if you want to, cleans up the audio, takes out the ads, posts it up there, and we're over 250,000 downloads now.
Yep, 227,000.
227,000. Okay, we're not quite to 250,000. We're close. 227,000 downloads though. That's cool. Mm-hmm. We hit that 250 mark, then we're at 250,000. I look forward to it. That'll be soon though, based on the downloads we're getting.
Yeah.
Good Lord. So all that stuff's available to you. You can find it at almost every downloadable place in the world that carries podcasts. Check it all out. And then I also write a piece that comes out in about 18 different news outlets around the state. 1819 News published it yesterday. But every single article I've written is up on the blog site, on the website, rightsideradio.org. All that to say, we love what we do, but we do it for y'all because without you, it wouldn't be worth the time, right? All right, let me jump in. Next topic. Okay, listen. This really hit me yesterday. I've forgotten what I was watching. There was something being done on one of the news outlets. I was watching the news last night when I got home from the show or something. I forget. Anyway, at some point it occurred to me, wait a minute. Okay, blackface is a big deal, and we're going to talk about what that means here in a minute. Blackface is some would call it cultural appropriation. It's really mocking. It's lampooning. It's lampooning a race of people. So blackface, yeah, not good. And yet, exactly what blackface does is what drag queens do. So why is one bad and the other okay? Why do they hate the one and love the other when both of them are people who are dressing up and lampooning an entire sector of our society and making a mockery of them, and one's okay and one's not? I mean, let's think about that. The level of anger and angst that we see levied at anybody who may remotely have been tied to an incident of blackface is like, next level. And by the way, sometimes the accusations get thrown out there, and I'll tell you some examples here in a minute, when they weren't even true, but they were ready to ruin someone's life over it because it was that important. It was that invigorating. And yet, you got drag queens that have their own TV shows. You got drag queen story hours where they're trying to promote it to the little kids. You got drag parades. And what do? They're men pretending to be women by exaggerating every characteristic physically that they can, and then pretending that they've got some kind of behavioral that is like nothing like any woman I would ever want to be around acts like. And then, oh, by the way, they put on this overly sexualized view of what all these exaggerated characteristics really are. They are lampooning women in a big way. Where are the women's rights activists right now? They're nowhere to be seen. You about to say something?
Yeah, I feel like the people that do blackface are the people that are trying to make a derogatory statement. And then the people that are dressing up as women, that's who they claim to be.
Some of them do. Some of them are just doing it because it's a kick. They call it an art form.
Yeah, true.
Well, the minstrel shows with blackface, that was considered an art form back in its day. Still wrong. But the reality is, drag is not an art form. It's a mockery of women. And that's what we got to get back to. If we're going to be angry about one, we got to be equally angry about the other. So, okay, all right, let me jump on this. Story from this one came out of Canada. It's a Canadian broadcasting company. There's a book that came out, or is about to come out. It just came out, the article came out June 2nd, so this is about, 10 days, 9 days ago? A Canadian journalist named Sam Forster has written a new book. He calls it Seven Shoulders. But to write the book, he disguised himself as a black man and traveled around the United States. Because he says, last summer I disguised myself as a black man and I traveled throughout the United States to document how racism persists in American society. Noble gesture, right? You may have already figured out Sam Forster is white. He's a white Canadian dude. He's about as white as they come. Oh, boy's like, so white he's clear.
Okay.
Sam Forster says that he literally put on a wig, contact lenses, and dyed his skin and went around the United States so he could write a book about what he believes is racism in modern society. I don't know why he didn't do it in Canada. He had to come to the United States, apparently, because that's the only place that racism exists. The reaction, according to the article here from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, was swift and brutal, with social media users expressing their angst, their anger, and amusement, and confusion, saying things like Zuby, who's a rapper and a podcaster, he said, it's hard to simultaneously draw the ire of black people, white people, conservatives, and liberals, but I think you've just done it. Several black scholars chimed in, saying that Forster's use of blackface is dehumanizing and troublesome. So let me get this straight. He's even doing it because he wants to support the cause, so to speak. But it's dehumanizing and troublesome.
Do you want to talk to Phil about it?
So a guy named George D.I. from the Center for Integrated Anti-Racism Studies at the University of Toronto, he came out and said, there are black scholars who write on these issues. They've said all that needs to be said. Why do we need a white person to do that? He wrote it because of a book that I remember having to, it was mandatory reading when I was in high school. That's a book, Black Like Me. It came out in 1961, thereabouts? Black Like Me, where a white guy did the exact same thing, disguised himself as a black man, went around the South, and then wrote a book about it and offered perspectives that, too many people weren't seeing or paying attention to. But in this particular instance, it's not allowed. You can't do that. You're a white guy. We don't need your help. We got this. Thank you very much. Do not use blackface. That is considered to be somehow, taking away from anybody in our race for a white guy to do this. But then you got situations where, okay, that one was designed, that one was purposeful, and that one was even designed to allegedly to sort of, like I said, help the racism cause or anti-racism cause. Then you have something like Sephora, the makeup store. February of this year, 3 white teenage girls were videotaped in Sephora and they put makeup on their faces. Witnesses said they were pretending like they had blackface on and they were making animal noises. If they did, it's wrong. They allegedly also had an adult chaperone with them and the adult didn't take action. I'm saying right now, raise your kids better than that. TikTok videos spread of it. Sephora says they kicked them out of the store. Sephora's top priority is to create a welcoming and inclusive shopping experience. We are deeply disappointed by the behavior of these shoppers. I got news. You don't control the shoppers, but okay. They kicked them out of the store. But it went viral. Why? Because it's a big deal. Believe me, I'm not defending these girls at all. I'm not defending their adult chaperone. Shouldn't have happened. But here's the thing. It went viral because people care about this. And yet, we have a double standard. Let me take a phone call real quick. I got about a minute and a half for the break. Vic from Killen. Hey, Vic, how you doing?
Hey, Phil. Hold on. I had you on speaker because I was listening to your melodious voice.
Okay. All right. Thank you. What you got?
Okay, man. I do appliance repair. Former Marine. I did 8 years from 79 to 87. Joined the Marine Corps on my 17th birthday. And we're dealing with all this crud. But when I came in the door today, my wife told me a joke. And I wanted to share. I said, I don't ever call radio shows.
All right.
I don't. I think one time I called Oliver North. Because I was in on the Grenada thing,
All right. Well, I appreciate your service, man. What is the joke clean?
Oh, it's clean.
All right. We got about 45 seconds. What you got?
Okay. She said, all these transgendered men that have tried to change themselves into females need to remember at around age 40, they still have to have a prostate exam.
It's true. That would be a biological fact. Vic, thanks for your service, man. We're heading to a break, but appreciate you. Thank you very much. All right, we'll see you.
I listen to you all the time, but, I'm a serviceman, so I only listen to you between service calls.
That works for me. Take it to the house with you sometimes, too. That works. We'll see you, Vic.
All right, bro.
All right, man. Take it to a break there, Big Rig. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. Yeah, I mean, we can make jokes about the drag. I get it. But listen, I'm going to tell you right now, we ought to start getting serious, because what I'm about to tell you more about with this blackface stuff, if it's that maddening, if it's that bad, which, by the way, it is, then why isn't drag that bad? Oh, yeah. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. So I'm in this section right now. I'm calling it drag queens and blackface. All right. Listen, the fact that I'm talking about it does not excuse it. I am not sitting here telling you blackface is okay. It's not. I'm also telling you that the angst about blackface needs to be matched with equal angst about drag queens. It just does. It just absolutely belittles women to watch dudes dress up as women and get out there with all these lampooning characteristics and overly suggestive, commentaries and other. They're literally making a mockery of women. The same way that the minstrel shows and the days of, official blackface and then even unofficial blackface is a mockery of black people. Now, I will say this. You've got to also watch the fact that it means so much for people not to do blackface that sometimes they're willing to accuse before they ever know the facts, like this one. Story that just broke, about exactly 30 days ago, actually. You may recall that back in 2020, there were several teenage boys from St. Francis High School in California who were accused on social media of blackface. They were seen, using blackface and smiling in the camera and all this. And if you look closer, there's a slight green tint to the stuff on their faces. Why? Because they actually took the selfie of themselves all putting acne makeup on. Because they're teenage boys and one of their buddies had this really strong acne problem and they all thought, well, I'll do it. And they all put the acne medication on. And they were joking with him about having to have the acne medication, and it's green when it dries. But it was blackface in the eyes of the world, and all the accusations flew, and the school took action, and things were done that, impacted their ability to get their education, and they were belittled in public and called out and shamed, and they just won a massive lawsuit, just so you know. They get $1 million. They sought much more, but they got $1 million. The school system was sued. The school system was taken all the way to a jury. The school system lost. And here's the thing. One of the attorneys for the students said this case is significant not only for our clients, but also for its groundbreaking effect on all private high schools in California, which are now legally required to provide fair procedures to students before they are punished or expelled. The jury saw through it. They initially demanded $20 million. They decided to settle for $1 million. I think it's each, but I'm not positive. But the bottom line is this. Because blackface is considered to be taboo, and because blackface is considered to be an insult to members of the black demographic, everybody got all up in arms. And that one wasn't even true. And then you got stuff like this. If you're going to equally apply the angst, well, how about Governor Northam? Remember him, Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia? I've got a piece here from the Christian Science Monitor. It says Virginia, this is from October of 2019, by the way, because Governor Northam's not even in office anymore. He finished out his term, though. But Virginia State Delegate Dolores McQuinn was with Democratic Governor Ralph Northam the night that a racist photo appeared. And it was racist. It absolutely was. As a member of the state's legislative black caucus, she was shocked that the man she had helped elect was once wearing blackface. But she said, there's no time to retreat. It's time to teach. This is the moment to turn the pain for all of us into something different. Now, I agree with that, but I also realize that had it not been a Democrat, she probably would have had a different story. But that picture of Ralph Northam back when he was in med school, he and his frat brothers, two of them were dressed up like KKK guys, and one was in blackface. So what does that tell you? That was absolutely a mockery. It was horrible. It never should have happened, and it did. But folks, I'm going to tell you, even Kay Ivey, governor of Alabama, apparently some picture arose, and I don't think it was ever clear that it was truly her, and she said she didn't remember it, but she apologized vociferously for it, and I'm fine with her apologizing. I can't explain away the things that used to happen, but I can tell you right now, they're not acceptable. My point is this. As we head to the break, and I'll come back and I'll talk more about drag queens. If you're going to tell us that blackface is something worthy of ruining people's lives over, something worthy of demanding apologies from elected officials, something worthy of trying to have kids thrown out of school. If you're going to tell us that blackface means that much because it actually mocks the people of color, then the reality is this. You got to say the same thing about drag queens because they are literally making a mockery of women. And I personally don't appreciate it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We got more. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one, and I mean it when I say it, Alabama. Y'all, I'm talking about. This show goes like way down south of Birmingham, up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. Hey, as you are in go-home time, let me pause for a second and give you something to think about, and something free, for that matter. So here's the deal. This is a crazy world. I mean, take note of the subject we're talking about right now, drag queens and blackface, right? I mean, this is a crazy world. Yet here you are working hard to plan for your future, stand up for your own beliefs, and what if you found out that, in the middle of doing that some of your investments are actually going to things that are absolutely contrary to what you believe in? Happens all the time. Let me suggest to you that maybe it's time for you to meet Paul Breyer. That's Paul Breyer and the team of PhDs and financial experts at our newest sponsor, Inspire Advisors. I'm talking about financial planning, y'all, that actually considers who you are and what you believe as much as your bottom line. So these are like local, solid experts using biblically responsible investing techniques, data-driven strategies to maximize your return. And they're doing it in a way that has a real impact to your bottom line, like I said, but also on the world in which we live. So I'm going to suggest to you, you go and get something free from them. You ready? If you want to know more about what's in your portfolio, go online to their website. That's www.moneypatternwealth.com, moneypatternwealth.com, and get a free impact report. It's pretty simple. Just download that sucker. Check out what's happening with your portfolio right now. And then maybe you might want to even talk to him about it. That's Inspire Advisors, Paul Breyer, moneypatternwealth.com. You can also find them by going to the rightsideradio.org website, click on the sponsors tab, and just click on their logo, and you'll go right to it. Yeah, conservative, godly, balanced. It's financial freedom, y'all, I'm telling you, with Inspire Advisors at moneypatternwealth.com. All right, let's take this thing all the way to go home time. It has been a great show, by the way. It's a double dipper day, man. Although I am pretty sure that the rant that I had in the first hour that lasted for a good half hour probably qualifies as a dipper of its own. Are you going to post that as a podcast? What you going to call it? Phil's rant or what?
Phil rants. Phil rants.
Phil rants. I like it. It's got a little roid rage going on or something today.
It's short and elegant.
I don't know about elegant, but okay. Hey, listen, if you want to text in or call in, the number is 833-687-4448. So blackface and drag queens. What the heck, man? Why is one considered taboo, offensive, and causes people to demand justice and get kids kicked out of school and everything else, and yet the other one is allowed to perpetuate when it mocks women? One mocks black people, the other one mocks women. Yeah. What the heck? Why is one considered all right, the other ain't? So CNN ran a piece on this back in 2019, back when blackface was getting a lot of attention because of Governor Northam and other things that were going on. And it points out that this has been a thing. White performers used to start painting their faces black to mock enslaved Africans in minstrel shows, even back in the 1800s. It was racist and offensive back then. It's still racist and offensive today. And blackface, it says in the article that I've got here from February 2019, CNN, it's not just about painting one's skin darker or putting on a costume. It's actually invoking racism and some painful history and literally just mocking black people. White performers, it says, used to darken their skin with polish and cork and put on tattered clothing and exaggerated features to look stereotypically, what they call stereotypically black, whatever that means. Depicting black people as lazy and ignorant, cowardly, or hypersexual. All these things are listed right now that way in the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History. They were designed to be funny to white audiences, but the black community thought them to be demeaning and hurtful, rightfully so. By the way, one of the most popular blackface characters of the minstrel days was named Jim Crow, from which we get the Jim Crow laws. So that being said, even Al Jolson, a white guy, became famous in a movie called The Jazz Singer, putting on blackface and singing. Actresses and actors like Shirley Temple and Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney did it in their movies. And it just basically made, black Americans the butt of jokes. And some say it desensitized white Americans to things like the horrors of slavery and racism. Okay. By the way, don't take my comments here as saying that we are a systemically racist nation, because I don't believe that we are. Have we had problems? We certainly have. And one of those has been the question of whether or not it's okay to mock an entire race and get, sell tickets doing it. And it's not. And yet, tell me why we can see drag queens and they can put on, massive prosthetic body parts and, hyper, makeup and big wigs and flowing, clothes, or for that matter, no clothes, and then dance around on stage and pretend to be women when they're really dudes, and they're just flat out mocking women. Remember the minute ago I read the thing from the CNN article? Made them look as lazy, ignorant, cowardly, or hypersexual. That's the thing. That's what the minstrels used to do in the blackface shows. Putting on exaggerated features, it said. That's what it said. I'm reading the article. CNN. Put on tattered clothing and exaggerated features to become stereotypically black, it says, depicting black people as lazy, ignorant, cowardly, or hypersexual. Wrong all the way around. Wrong from the get-go. What do we see in drag queens? Hypersexualization, exaggerated features, lampooning women. It's the exact same freaking thing. Don't tell me it's not. There's a website that I've discovered called 500 Moms Strong. I don't know much about the organization, so I'm not trying to really tout them. I'm just telling you where the website is. It's 500, the number is 500, 500 mom, as in moms, like mothers, 500momstrong.org. At the very top of the page, it says, together we can fight the sexualization of children and the degradation of women in our community by making a stand. And what they're literally saying, CBN News ran a story on this, Christian Broadcasting News, says, quote, drag queens are very offensive to women. They are hypersexualized caricatures of women, said Anna Bohach of the 500momstrong.org organization. Says, quote, they mock women, they debase our womanhood and our femininity. And they plan to, take action on it. I'm saying, yeah, absolutely take action on it. I mean, I look at this like right here. In March of last year, University of Texas actually canceled, thank goodness, canceled a student-run drag show, arguing that the art form was offensive to women. Good for you, Texas. Good for you, Longhorns. So yeah, actually it wasn't Longhorns, it was West Texas A&M. I'm sorry, I thought it was Texas, University of Texas, but it's West Texas A&M. The quote from the president of the university said, drag shows stereotype women in cartoon-like extremes for the amusement of others, and they discriminate against womanhood. Said drag shows are derisive, divisive, and demoralizing misogyny, no matter the stated intent. Yeah, I'm just saying. So here's the bottom line, folks. If we're going to get angry about blackface, if we're going to say that politicians need to apologize and maybe even resign from their positions, if we're going to say that kids ought to be kicked out of school and disciplined, if we're going to shout down anybody who has a store where kids came in and put makeup on their faces and had to get kicked out of the store for doing that allegedly, if we're going to say these things matter, then as a society, as a culture, we have to say they matter across the board. It cannot be okay to do it over here with drag queens mocking women and not do it over here. Or excuse me, over here with it cannot be okay to say no to blackface and yes to drag queens. Let me jump on the phones before I run out of time. Is that Jeff? Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Save me from myself, brother. What you got?
I've got a little bit different take on this stuff.
Oh, Bill. No. What do you got?
I think we've all become a little bit of snowflake. I mean, I don't care what you say about me or what you think about me. You can't offend me because I know who I am. And, black people could make fun of white people. Say if I put on kabuki makeup, I mean, if I was in a play or whatever, would I be, making fun of Japanese? No, I'd just be in a play with kabuki makeup on. Or the show like Hamilton, they got black people paying white people there, and
true.
if I played a black slave in a play or whatever, I can't see nothing wrong with that. So
no, and I think that's different. I think to some degree it's different. If you're truly acting out a part and not trying, but when they're doing it for the purpose of mocking is what we're talking about, which is exactly what drag queens are doing. But so let me ask you this: if we had a show and we said all truck drivers eat pickled eggs and truck stop fish, would that be offensive?
I think it's funny like you do. Just like you like all your lawyer jokes too, man. If that offends you, then oh man, I feel sorry for you.
All right, brother. Where are you out on the road right now?
I'm in Nashville, running about 5 miles an hour.
Well, at least you're already up there to Nashville town. So pass by the Grand Ole Opry and keep heading to the house.
There you go.
All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow, man. Take care.
Have a good one, bud.
All right, you too. All right, listen, I got a bunch of text messages. We're going to get some of those when I come right back. But I'm serious, y'all. This is the thing. Liberals that want you to believe that it's okay over here, not okay over there. That's crap. That is absolute crap. If there's a standard, then freaking enforce it. That's all there is to it. If there's a standard, then it's got to be like, a standard. But the standard only fits their narratives right now. That's what's so aggravating. All right, folks, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Like making common sense like a superpower. We got a bunch of text messages here. I'll take those. And let me see. Oh, is John? John's already got the grades in. What's he got here? John from Huntsville says Big Rig, Phil the Ranter, and Awesome Scott Buttram all get an A triple plus. However, Awesome Scott Buttram gets the win by 1 point over Big Rig and 2 points over Phil the Ranter. Points for what?
I should have played Taco Tuesday one more time. I would have got 5 points.
You probably could have. We talked about them crying about not being able to do their drag queen show, and you were going to hit that baby sound. You got that thing over there?
I do.
I'm just going to go ahead and say, hit the sound. That's not even it. Have you got one that's a crying baby? I thought you did. Like that whole, you wouldn't believe how many buttons he's got over there. You could launch a nuclear missile from this studio. I'm just saying.
I do not have the crying baby.
Okay, we got to find one. All right, either way, we could have played you more sound effects, and I feel certain you would have won. Ron from Tuscobia says, had a very poor showing of the public Saturday in Florence. There were only 14 people that showed up to protest a drag queen show. Well, I mean, and Ron, text me this and tell me how many people showed up to support the drag queen show. Because if the drag queen show brought out, 45 people, and then there were also 14 more that were there to protest, then 1/3 of the people who showed up, or at the very least had the numbers to match. I'm okay with that. It's 14 more than we had before, right? But tell me, Ron, if you don't mind. I mean, was it a big event? I don't even know. If it was huge, if there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds there, I'd love to know it. But anyway, text me what you know about the attendance at this drag show in Florence on Saturday. Marcus from Huntsville says, a lot of people don't realize that much like drag queens, blackface was socially acceptable for quite some time. White actors were not the only ones that dressed in blackface. Even black actors would dress in blackface and do performances, but the opposition began to grow, and people started to see it for what it really was, which was demeaning an entire race of people. There's far more women in the world than blacks, so I am not sure why there's not more outrage about drag queens than there is, especially since blackface never targeted children. That's a great point. Yeah, that's, you make a great point. I think your point too is that there needs to be more outrage, and I'm not sure the outrage is. But how about this? Just say stop. Just say stop. Like, point out that you can't have this double standard and get away with it. It's not allowed. You can't have the rules one way over here and not over there. John from Brownsboro says, should we be upset with the Wayans brothers? I mean, they make some hilarious movies, but they had a movie called White Chicks. They did. They put on a white face and they cross-dressed to get a scholarship to college.
I love that movie.
Literally, that's what they did. Jenny from Decatur says, then there's the movie The Birdcage. Well, see, they had Robin Williams. It doesn't matter what it was. If Robin Williams was in it, it was going to be funny. Except for that one movie he made where he owned a toy company and it was trying to be serious and it was awful. But anyway, Robin Williams, God rest his soul. That man was a mind like nobody had ever seen before. But when he played in that movie, The Birdcage, yes, he lampooned gay people. He certainly did. And the movie was hilarious. Just saying. And then Robert from Hazel Green says, I can't understand why the vast majority of people think that everything is racist. What he says, vote Democrat. I think what he's saying is the vast majority of people who think that everything is racist vote Democrat. Because Democrats are victims. That's it. You look at the Democrat Party platform, you will find that the vast majority of the Democrat Party platform is based upon victimhood. Everything about it is victimhood. There's not a whole lot of, the free market and inspiring the American dream and raising people to believe in their abilities under the American system of capitalism and freedom and the Bill of Rights and all the things we have going for us here. No, it's mostly victimhood. They pander to what they call intersectionalities, which is where they divide people up into little bitty categories, and every once in a while they let them get together. Like, oh, you're gay? Okay. Oh, you're gay and you're black. Oh, okay. You get a double. You're intersectioning there. And then you're gay, black, and handicapped? You're a gay, black, handicapped woman? Oh my gosh. You got like a quadruple. You hit the trifecta, and then you got added one more. You're a quadruple. That's what they do. Democrats love victimhood. They divide you up into small pieces. Their goal is to divide and conquer, because if they got you built into small pieces, when they need to, they can also turn the small pieces against each other. And they do. Classic example right now is the fact that you've got people who are who are trying to march in pride parades are not able to march because pro-Palestinian protesters are blocking their way. And yet some of the pro-Palestinian protesters are queers for Palestine. And they don't know what to do. So they stand in the middle looking a bit perplexed because they realize their intersections are blocking each other and they don't know what to do. Why? Because they spend so much time dividing themselves into little components that they can't even get together when the time comes to get something done. Anyway, all that to say, great show today, amazing content. You guys are an amazing audience. And I love the fact that I get this constant feedback from the audience. We got tons of people in the text line right now, and the idea that you guys participate in the show is part of what makes this show so enjoyable. We're going to be back here tomorrow. I suspect we're going to wind up having the Grand Council as always, and then planning the week forward. I look forward to having more great content. In the meantime, keep your eyes on this thing with Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden convicted today, and don't forget the deep irony of the fact that as Hunter Biden was convicted on gun crimes, that his father was at the same exact time speaking to a gun control conference about getting guns out of people's hands, while his son is using an NRA-backed defense of the Second Amendment to explain why he was allowed to have a gun even as a drug addict and trying to get by with it. And no, he was convicted. So now you've got this great dichotomy of the man that Joe Biden says is the smartest person he's ever met, and his son, who he loves, and I appreciate that, was convicted today on the exact same thing that Dad was speaking against at a conference. You can't make this stuff up, people. You just can't. But it's the world in which we live. In the meantime, Rightside Radio is going to be here to tell you how to walk through it all, you guys. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, me and the big rig, back here tomorrow. We'll see you then.